I moved to Spenard in 2009.
And I live just over the hill on Iowa Street, and that's where my dad lived since 1985.
Lived over on 36th and Spenard, like 3 blocks away from when the old Bosco's.
So I live only a few blocks away from Spenard Motel.
We moved to West 32nd, which is still, where is it? It's over this way.
And so I kind of lived out by Kincaid Park for a few years here and there. I was out in Chugiak for a bit, and then eventually I ended up home in Spenard.
I have lived in Spenard. When we first moved here, we lived off of Barbara Street, which is right down from the Rustic Goat.
We lived right over there across from the Regal, but it's not the Regal, it's the Millennium now, so.
Live off of Spenard, so kind of on, just off of.
I do live in Spenard. I've been living here for 7 years. I live basically one hop, skip, and a jump, and like half a beer from here.
I've lived in Spenard technically for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived here for a year, so yeah, it was an experience. It was very, I'm just gonna,
I've lived in Spenard now for the last 5 years. I'm about a block and a half up the road here.
The story starts in Spenard and it ends somewhere else. At Chilkoot Charlie's one night, me and some buddies were going out and we were getting with it.
You know, we're celebrating the decommissioning of the sex shop here.
And I didn't even get the first sentence out of my mouth. I just said I thought I saw a mushroom on the ground, and she said, "You saw a Spenard dildo."
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it was Spenard. It was just something that was part of the flavor of Spenard.
And he said it was between the Harley Davidson shop and the porno shop, which was this old place.
So we just kind of Alaska-fied a dirty bookstore.
And he said, "Oh, that house, I hope you're not buying the little brown house that's set back from the street." And I said, "Well, that might be the place." And he said, "Well, I remember that house." He said, "I don't remember everything about it. I don't remember if were the girls upstairs or were the girls in back? No, the drugs were upstairs, the girls were in the back, and the gambling was downstairs. No, it was the other way around. The gambling was in back, the girls were upstairs, and the drugs were right inside the front door. It was an after-hours club." And
It's not necessarily reporting, but I did get confused as a hooker once.
Where Bear's Tooth is like right now, it used to be called the 101 House. So movies there would be just for $1.
And these days when we drive around Spenard, we're like, is that a hipster or a hooker?
What's going on? Is there fornicating?
And he said, "I was just stopped at the light at Spenard in Minnesota, and I looked at this woman, and she looked familiar, and then she got in the car." And I said,
No, seriously.
And I'm right next to Minnesota. It's like, boom, Minnesota, done.
I get crazy about that.
So, Space Station was sketchy because I've heard stories about drug dealings going on over at Space Station, but I didn't care. I was there to play Street Fighter over there.
And
am I being arrested?
I just drove straight down, Spenard, and I said, "Well, who was this person?" He goes, "I don't know. I think she was a prostitute."
Oh, I lived in this little thing, and there was a mouse problem. Comes back, she's got her 2 coffees, and she sees the lady leaning over into a car talking to someone, and she's like, "Oh, that's what she's saying my territory was." And she wound up having a great morning conversation with this lady who worked the street and came back home. She was like, "I just had the greatest conversation with a hooker this morning."
I had a friend introduce me to Burger Stop.
I had a mouse in my pocket for a month, so when people would ask me what I've been up to, I'd say, "My new pet."
Sorry.
Well, what I learned about the place started from people kind of going around like with a big attitude about, yeah, Spenard, you know, and I'm like, what's up with Spenard? Why is everybody like, yeah, Spenard, so proud? And I realized that Anchorage has been pissing on Spenard for as long as it's been alive.
Outside of the city limits here in Spenard, Joe Spenard specifically had all sorts of places where railroad workers would come spend their paycheck.
But oh wait,
What were your local hangouts?
the Java joint.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, yeah, it's great.
I worked at, it's called Donovan's, and I was a hostess, and I remember one time hearing about the servers that would get like $100 tips just like that, and this was the early pipeline days.
People who live in Spenard generally come from a sweat equity existence.
The guy who ran this place actually said, well, you know, if you want, you can pop it in the VHS right here behind the counter and preview it before you purchase that. And I remember that really sticking out as a unique feature of this adult establishment here in beautiful Spenard.
That's the story.
Yeah, well.
Hey, can you do like one personal story? Totally Duke Russell personal story?
Okay. It's awkward. I don't know.